So, last night I got done with season 2 of Andor, and oh my fucking god, holy shit. Yeah, I just gotta defend the somewhat admittedly clickbait title. It's true, it's something I feel deeply in my heart. Andor season 1 and season 2 is just the best Star Wars I have ever seen in really any media. And yes, I haven't seen literally every piece of media of Star Wars or read it or played the games or whatever. I'm sure there's something really great out there that I don't know about. And hey, please tell me. I want more quality Star Wars content. That's a good thing if you disagree with this take a little bit. But as far as the thumbnail itself, even better than the OG trilogy, I could imagine people saying, like, hey man, you're comparing apples and oranges. The original trilogy and Andor are completely different genres. They're doing different things. And I agree with you. It's still fun for me to compare apples and oranges. I think you could learn a lot from doing that. But the reason why this is a true title for me to title this video is that, I love the original trilogy. I'll even defend aspects of the prequels even. The Disney sequels, let's not even go there. They're so bad. They're marginally better than AI drivel, but I want to stay positive and mostly talk about Andor. But regarding this being better than A New Hope and the rest, my argument is basically there are things in the original trilogy that I would change, that a lot of people would. There are nitpicks, right? Plenty of things that are outside the scope of this video, but mostly I just want to rave and talk about Andor because it is so good. It's one of the best pieces of TV I've watched, since like Better Call Saul or something like that. Yeah, just absolutely mind-blowing. There's basically nothing I would change about it. Not a thing. I mean, maybe like a nitpick here if I'm really like scrutinizing it, but chef's kiss, just everything about it is just between the actual writing, the set design, everything that matters. There's so much thought and care, and regardless of genre, regardless of tone, I wish more Star Wars was like this. In this unscripted video mine, I'm going to talk about why I love Andor so much, particularly season 2. And yeah, I will be spoiling everything. So you have been warned. This is your spoiler warning. All right, let's get to it. Frankly, I don't even know where to begin. This is going to be a rambly review. Bear with me. I just want to say they nailed all the promises that they set up in season 1. I love Cyril and Dedra together. I hate them so much as like people, but on screen I was screaming at the TV. I love the fact that they actually had a real relationship and even had like an implicit sex scene with Dedra being like, yeah, turn off the lights for an hour. That's great. I love how serious they took the fascism in Star Wars, because my favorite part of Star Wars and the part of the prequels that I will defend is the politics. It's why Andor to me is definitively Star Wars, because yeah, Star Wars is a lot of things, right, to a lot of people, but to me one of the roots of it is it's an anti-fascist story, sort of built in. Some people are like, don't bring politics into Star Wars. It's like, it's in the name. And I love how the series really evolved. At first, when Andor was announced, you're like, oh, like that side character from Rogue One. And Rogue One was pretty good. I can't wait to revisit it after seeing this. But it's like, okay, we're just going to take Cassian Andor. Like, oh, who is he? Oh, yeah, from Rogue One. And like, okay. What I love about this show is that Andor, the show, is entirely about the formation of the rebels as a unified political party and organization, as a fighting force. In season 1, we see a microcosm of that with Cassian Andor himself. He starts out the show not wanting to get involved, wanting to mind his own business, right? And everything he does to stay not involved fails. Even after the major heist in Aldhani, he gets thrown in jail. He gets thrown into a labor prison camp for nothing. And he's sort of like forced to reconcile with that. And basically, fascist empires tend to make people fight against them because they often give you no other way out. So season 1 of Andor is all about Andor himself being radicalized. And I think season 2 really just brings home that point of now a galaxy is getting radicalized. There's many Andors happening around the galaxy who are getting pushed into action, pushed into being true believers. Because by the time we see Andor in Rogue One, yeah, he's just like shooting a guy because I forget the specific reasons, but at the time it seemed kind of like, oh no, it's like edgy and kind of cold-hearted, and he did so easily. And what's really cool about the first few episodes of season 2 is that we see him sort of like still new to the game as far as being a proper rebel, but like spreading that message with the chick who was helping him steal that experimental TIE fighter. I love the first few episodes, by the way, just with how the setup is so cool, yet because he's driving a experimental starship that no one really knows how to drive, he makes a lot of mistakes. It's very, very funny. You're expecting a action scene, and you definitely get the action scene, but it's, he has plot armor in the sense that we know what happens to him at the end of Rogue One, but yeah, some hijinks ensue. We get to see what a leaderless rebellion looks like. As a leftist myself, I love that we got some leftists infighting. It's like, here's what happens when there is no leadership in the rebellion. People die. People get eaten by the beast on Yavin. That was very cool. And poor Andor was so helpless this entire time. There's so many things I want to praise in this video, so please bear with me. What the show really hones in on is just the myriad ways that fascism operates. Stormtroopers are scary. So many scenes in this show, I'm just filled with dread and trepidation because I know, like, the stakes are real. Credit is due to the story runners. I was expecting the ending to be more bleak or bittersweet, but I guess I'm a fool because the idea of hope is so strong in this narrative, where I'm so happy that at least a few characters seem to have a happy ending, at least at that moment. The war does go on for quite a while, and who knows what happens to Cinta and Clea, but I'm so happy that they made it out alive. And speaking of Clea and Luthen, they have to be like my favorite characters almost ever. They're in the top like 5 in my brain right now, probably top 10 forever. I've always resonated with Luthen and the pragmatic utilitarian types the most. Maybe that's an indictment on myself, but I feel like morally I align the most closely. I'm a result-oriented person, and yes, the ends justify the means. That is a common villain trope, but utilitarianism is wide and vast. There's quite a few ways to be like morally good with that viewpoint, which is I consider myself a utilitarian. And Luthen is just so good. I love how we got just the right amount of backstory for him. Just the right. I wanted to know more, but not too much, and I was scared that they would mishandle that somehow, and they didn't. We just got enough to know like why Clea and Luthen are the way they are. They started out just being really just like run-of-the-mill terrorists. They bombed checkpoints. They murdered guards. I'm sure civilians got caught in the crossfire, right? But what motivates them is just like spite and hatred of this evil empire that is doing like shooting squads. You see that scene where they're firing squads, just there in Star Wars. Not to mention like the genocide and the rape scene, or the near rape scene rather. But we get an insight onto how Luthen and Clea operate and their bond together, There's definitely been strong hints of like a father-daughter situation, but I do love how there's that quote of them where little Clea is asking Luthen's like, so are you my dad? And he's like, when we need to be. But there's like love there. And Luthen is such a conflicted character. He's flawed, but he does mostly everything right. Something I want to push back against that I've seen in some reviews and some people talking about Andor, and they're not entirely wrong. I just want to like give my own perspective here, is that they'll say like, wow, Andor really shows the rebels and the Empire as morally gray. And I get that they're morally gray in the sense that they're complicated. Cyril is sort of like an incel type dude, but he's relatable in a lot of ways. He's definitely human. He's definitely, I don't think, like pure evil like a lot of other characters are. But I'm gonna push back against the idea that there's moral grayness to this, because here's the thing. Here's something that people don't really realize. War sucks. And yeah, people are like, no shit, Blake. Of course, like, war sucks. But like, war sucks. There's no, it's not clean. It's not pretty. There's no like high ground. What bothers me the most about when people try to say that like that you're trying to drink my alcohol. Yeah, some people have critique, even in a positive sense, of like, yeah, the rebels are shown to be a bit more morally gray, and same as the Empire. There's like quite a lot of humanization happening even with the ISB, the fascist CIA equivalent. And I think I disagree. The thing is, when someone is trying to kill you, when they have a knife or a gun to your throat or head or whatever, this is not a sport. Fighting for your life is not a sport. It is life or death. When you're in a life or death situation, you aim for the eyes, you aim for the groin, you aim for the throat, you throw dust or dirt at people's faces. Any tool to make sure that you get out alive is viable. Now, what comes after is a whole different story, like after the revolution, right? But in the moment, when you're being subjugated to genocidal violence, where your enemy cannot be reasoned with, they want you dead, and they have the ability to do so. If you fight clean, you die. And I don't care about being the most morally pure person at the death camp. That said, I do appreciate Luthen. He does have a conscience. He does feel bad. And some of the complexities with his viewpoint is that he's already a ghost. He's already treating himself as dead inside, and with the goal of eradicating and weakening the Empire at basically any cost. And people in his circles don't necessarily, they're not as radicalized, right? It did break my heart when he killed Lonnie in like the 10th episode or whatever. That's hard to see. I like Lonnie a lot, but he's a true believer, and if it furthers his goals, he will kill you if that furthers his goal for what he considers the greater good. God, I just love Luthen and Clea so much. And like, really, yeah, that last arc with Clea killing Luthen, taking him off life support, that was so poignant, so powerful, because one, she's just a stone-ass killer. Like, she lockpicks the lockers to get the nurse uniform, and she is so steadfast in her beliefs. She is so resolute and so strong that she's like a tidal wave. She's like a force beyond reckoning as she is going through the hospital, killing any Imperial that comes across her way in order to kill Luthen, who at this point tried to kill himself via knife wound. And she does it almost without hesitation. She's crying, she's emotional at it, but I just love how resolute she is, and how she sort of breaks down after that, where she has nowhere to go. Just really all the arcs were just handled better than I can imagine. I was nervous about season 2. It's like, okay, like regardless of what happens during season 2, there's season 1, and season 1 will be pristine in my eyes forever. And season 2 is even better. I don't even know how do you get past being better than season 1. It just expands on it. Like Dedra ending up in the same kind of prison camp as Cassian did, because she was very competent at her job, but competency means jack shit in the Empire. Like, once you're used up, you're used up. Once you're done being useful, that's it. I love every scene with the droid, I'm forgetting his name, the autistic droid that likes to smash people, right? Like, that was great. That was much needed comic relief after we saw those same droids just massacring the Gormans. And speaking of the Gormans, wow, yeah, it's not a secret. They led up to the Gorman massacre for most of the season until it happened. I loved the totally fake, not French language that they made up. As a Cajun French person myself, I really like that, echoing a lot of the French resistance, and the city of Palma was definitely inspired by sort of the fashion cities like Milan and whatever. There's so many historical parallels, and I love how it was a Imperial sniper that started off the big riot. You know, they kettled them up together, and they fired. You know, the Imperial shot another Imperial, and all hell broke loose. And they had inexperienced Imperials to be worse at their job to make it worse, right? And oh, Karn, Cyril Karn. Oh God, I like to think that in a different world he would have been better, but he's not in a different world. He's in this one, and yeah, his last confrontation with Cassian was just so crazy, so good. Such a fitting end, you know? And this whole season, I was like, yeah, Cassian's totally forgotten about this guy, and I know Cyril in the back of his head is like obsessed with him. And to finally confront Cassian after all this time, and you know, he has him in range of his blaster. He's gonna kill him, but like Cassian asks him like, "Who are you?" And Cyril pauses because he realizes like, "Oh my God, you've been like my arch enemy for like years. I've been obsessing, and you don't even know who I am." And I bet he was gonna go on a long fucking rant before the pacifist Gorman leader was not pacifist. He just shot him, shot him dead. What a fitting end. Dedra and Cyril, they're so weird. People will and continue to make just hour-long videos just on those two. They're great. I love seeing them on screen. They're so evil and so fucking weird. I keep repeating that. But like God, such broken people. And yeah, human. Even Dedra in her own psychopathic way. Just and I'm glad they didn't get redemption arcs. Because that's been played out so often in Star Wars. And as a leftist, I do believe everyone can be redeemed. That's like the big central theme with Star Wars. Even Darth Vader can be redeemed. The alternative, if you don't believe that people can be redeemed as a leftist, I don't even know why you are a leftist. I think you should just be some Puritan or something. But I'm glad they didn't get the redemption. I'm also glad we didn't get to see any Darth Vader. It really was a show that was just purely on the human side. And to me, it makes the impact of Jedi even more so because they've been played out a lot. Now, granted, one of my favorite Star Wars pieces of media is the Jedi Survivor game. I guess Survivor is like the sequel, which I liked a lot more. But those have a place in media. I love Cal, but I love that we didn't get like cheap fan service, really. Because we've seen enough. The world of Andor feels so big, like the set design and everything, and back looping to the different political factions and like Luthen and whether or not he's right or wrong. I do love how much screen time, or at least emphasis, we got on Mon Mothma, who is what would be basically a liberal politician slash activist slash like leader. Working within the system until she doesn't, with the cold spy master pragmaticism of like Luthen, and with the kind of like raw fanaticism of Asa. And I think they're all correct and all needed at some point. Asa, maybe towards the end, he gets definitely a bit crazy to the point of not being as useful. The rebellion isn't just one guy or one set of idea or beliefs. It is a accumulation of all of these ideas put together. It's not just Luke Skywalker saving the day, even though, yeah, he made a big impact, of course, in A New Hope. But it was all the infrastructure behind him. And what makes Andor so special is that it makes all of other Star Wars even better. That is quite a feat. Better Call Saul actually did this with Breaking Bad, even though Breaking Bad was already a masterpiece and everything. But like the prequels that like make the previous stuff better, that's hard to do and commendable. Holy shit, right? I cannot wait to go back to Rogue One and a New Hope, and I'm gonna see it in a totally different light. Now that I have the context for what the Rebels went through and everything. And it'll be nice to see Luke and Han Solo and Leia do this mythologized stuff. You know, I do love those movies a whole lot. But it's just so nice to have like a grounded experience. And we're not gonna get anything like this for a while, aren't we? It's gonna break my heart. It makes me want to play the Knights of the Old Republic games way back from the early 2000s. I might scratch that itch. They're like old and janky, but as far as story goes, I think maybe, right? That might be the place to go. And something I did love that was kind of unexpected was I loved how the ISB was basically defeated. What's his name? Partagaz? I don't know. He acted like a college professor. I love Partagaz or whatever however you say his name is. He was so cool, and I do love the fact that he took the pussy way out of shooting himself in the head, just like a proper fascist would. He is a kind of guy to see the big picture. I like that other guy just getting used as a human shield by the android, which I'm forgetting the name of the android. I should have wrote that down, but I didn't. That was very satisfying. I don't know. I didn't expect them to lose so hard, but that's me being the fool because a rebellion is built on hope. So obviously, duh, like, of course. So yeah, I think that's about it. I could rant so long, but this is already such a ranty video, and there are going to be plenty of video essays that are actually scripted and well thought out that will expand upon each arc and character. I've already watched a few myself. Morphologists has a series just talking about the architecture and architecture reviews Andor. Like that alone is amazing. There are people already who have made just videos just on costumes and designs and stuff like that. This show is so rich. The more you look at it, the more you see. And I'm just so happy to have experienced it. And I'm sad it's gone, but I'm so happy it did what it did. So yeah, I'm the Rat Shepherd. I'm going to close out this video very self-indulgently by playing an old French song written in World War II about partisans called The Partisan. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please see you around for the next one. Thanks. When they came across the border, I was cautioned to surrender. This I could not do. I took my gun and vanished. I've changed my name so often. I've lost my wife and children, but I have many friends. Some of them are still here with me. Some of them are still here with me. There are 3 of us this morning. Now I'm the only one this evening. But I must carry on. The frontier is my prison. The frontier is my prison. The frontier is my